Hello and welcome to Kleshna's award-winning Bangle Weaver workshop. Today we're going to be weaving lovely warm cuffs. They are fantastic, made out of 100% merino wool, and today I also have a special guest with me. I hope that you can see her here. What's this? Tilly? Tilly? As you can see, she's easily bought, but anyway, welcome Tilly. I'm glad you could be able to join us here. It's all a bit of fun really, isn't it? Anyway, as we say in our world, don't waste it, weave it. Now let's get down to the weaving board and I will show you how to make these wonderful cuff warming bangles. Okay, here we are down on the beading board and here I am with my lovely wrist warming winter warmer cuffs. As you'll see, this one here I've done a little bit of wire work on first of all, which you'll be able to find on one of my earlier tutorials, and this one here only has the wire in it to re-warp it. I have to tell you, these are incredibly wonderful and warm, and I created it to keep that little gap between your coat and your hand very warm, and that it achieves very easily. So what I'm going to do now is to show you how to make this. If you're interested in it, we can sell you the felting wool, but what you will need to do this is one of my special award-winning bangle weavers. You'll need a pair of pliers. These are lovely Italian Beadalon ones. You'll need a pair of sniped nose pliers. You'll need my wonderful two-holed beading needle here. The reason for two holes will come clearer later. You will need some Beadalon wire, and you will need some scrumptious felt top stuff here. This feels like sort of one of those things in Star Trek. I don't know if you ever remember the one where they had tribbles and they kept growing and growing and growing. But anyway, here's my felt top. So now, stop being silly, Kleshna, really. Let's get going. So either if you wish to make one like this one, you will need 3 meters of a wonderful bit of wire from Beadalon. And I would suggest that you do between 5 and 6 rows and you crimp it off here, just like I have done. However, if you want to make this one, you will do what I'm just about to do. So here's my bangle weaver, and here's my glorious wool, which I have to say I'd like to make a bed in at the moment. In fact, my darling dog, who is sitting to my left, is kind of similar in colour to the wool that I'm using here. Now I am using a 55 grams ball of this wonderful felting stuff, which I get especially made for me in these wonderful stripy colours. And I know we're going to put it up on our website because a lot of people have asked for it. Now, what I adore about this is it's so easy to make into a long piece of sort of felted, drawn out woolly stuff. And you will find your little niche in the bangle weaver. Start to roll this in your hands. Do you know, it helps if you've got slightly warmer hands. Pop it over here, and then I would quite honestly say it's very simple. All you need to do is to roll both sides away from the bangle weaver. Now, one of the things I did forget to recommend to you is to use some Kumihimo bobbins. Now, if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to pop off and get my Kumihimo bobbins and wind the wool onto them. So I'll see you in a minute. Thank you for your patience. I've been away, got my Kumihimo bobbins, and I've wound my wool. What I'm going to show you with this tiny piece of wool is what I would have to go out of screen to show you, and that is if you're working with felt tops or whatever you want to call this divinely scrummy stuff, what you'll need to do is to twist it, keep twisting it, all right? Run your hand down it because it likes the warmth and the oils that come off your hand, and keep twisting it until it starts to twist in on itself so that it's making its own little rope, okay? So I hope that that's more easy to understand now you've actually been able to see it on your screen. Right, let's pop that aside. Now, with both of these, I have twisted them, as you can see, to their utmost, and I popped it over by where the little mark is on here, and I'm going to work my way around to the left, and this time, unlike all the others, I'm going to go over the top. There we go, and I'm literally just putting that one over and behind, and this one is going over the top, this one is going behind, this one is going over the top, and you will see in a minute what an exquisitely beautiful sort of rope-like pattern this is giving. Now, the wonderful benefit of this 100% sort of merino wool is that it is so warm and so scrummy. In fact, my studio manager and I are madly in love with this product. I think we'd like to sort of stuff a whole bed full of it. I feel a little bit like the Wicked Fairy in Sleeping Beauty when I'm working with it, and I think my dog, Tilly, who you saw a little bit of earlier, probably thinks I'm trying to turn into her because she is indeed grey and white. Now, there we go. I've almost done a full round, and I will show you what it looks like when I've done that. You know, keep turning it because it does then keep the weave nice and tight, and it gives you that rather exquisite sort of marbled colour look that you get from using the merino, which has the mixed colours in it. There we go. I'm just doing row number 2. Now, normally, as I have said, you either have a sort of a predilection to weave towards the right or to weave towards the left. I'm a left-hander, so I do everything going sort of towards the left. They call it the airman's principle. You go into an exhibition hall or something, and most people will turn to the left. I have no idea why this works, but it's such a truism. I hope you are enjoying working with the Bangle Weaver, and I'd be really fascinated to hear from any of you who've used unusual materials on it. I'd love to see your results at Kleshna@kleshna.com. When you have a mad lame like mine, it's might as well use it and make the most of it. And I hope you can see quite how fast this is growing. Now, the other benefit of working in merino wool is when you want to join another bit on, you just basically shred the wool out with your fingers at the end and join the other bit in. There's no sewing, there's very little effort required in doing so, and you get such a wonderful sort of continuous piece. Now, I will come back to you in a few minutes when I've finished weaving this one, just before I pop on my next piece of merino wool. Bye-bye for now. Okay, so I've got to the end of my piece of wool that I'm working with, and the joy of working in this material is quite simply, you know, you can kind of comb it through on here if you want to almost, but you literally will go like this and add your new piece of wool into this and integrate it into your bangle. I mean, what could be simpler than that? And then you start twisting it again before you then put it back onto your bobbin. So, you know, a piece of cake really to add to, which is of course one of the other main attractions of doing this, because whilst I absolutely adore all of the things that I do, I think we sometimes get a little bit lazy. I wish I were a little bit like, you know, in Leonardo da Vinci's day, they used to have someone to mix the colours for them, and, you know, someone to do all the grunt work that is required. They used to have somebody else to do. However, it's all part of life's rich tapestry. There we go. I'm just adding this in here too, and I'm going to start twisting these, and I'll be back to you when I'm ready to start weaving again with these two pieces. Okay, folks, you can see I've now got to the end of my lollipop here. Now, all I'm doing is I've gathered it up together, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a cheaty swirl back here, because I know for a fact that this is really, really simple to warp. Now, let me just show you something. Can you see how much more woven that looks? Because what I have done, in essence, is I have turned two things that way, and then I've gone back on myself with them. So if any of you have got daughters or granddaughters with long hair, if you put their hair in two, turn them both that way, and then go back on yourself, you'll get more of this pattern. I didn't do that so much with this, and can you see it? I mean, it's not very discernible, but it's blended in more with itself. Just a wee tip about weaving. I have got here, magically, a normal needle and thread, and quite honestly, all I will do is I just want to secure the end part in here before I chop it off. So I'm quite simply just darning this in. I mean, this wool is so soft that you almost don't need to. But I think if you make these, you'll find they are so beautiful, and I love, love, love these mixed colours here. It's terrible. I have to keep Kaylee's hands off it. Kaylee is my wondrous studio manager, who I've mentioned before on this video, but we're both in love with this particular product. Funny, isn't it? How I'm sure that you must all have your favourite thing too. Right, okay, that's all I've done. I've gone over and over and over, just a very few times. And the other piece of advice I will give you is don't do what I've done, which is to wear black when you're weaving with white and grey. It's very foolish, Kleshna. Right, okay, so that's my weave done. And all it leaves me to do is to warp it. So I am going to use about 2 meters of the warp thread on this. I don't believe I need to use any more than that because it is not incredibly wide. I'm just going to pop my wire out of the way there. I'm going to get my lovely 2-holed needle, and I'm going to put the thread through like that and like that. So it makes it more difficult for it to come out. And I'm going to be very naughty because it isn't a very, very deep bangle. I am not going to take it off the Bangle Weaver. This is not something I would advocate. I'm just being very cheeky with this particular one because it's not too long. And I hope I don't come adrift. But you'll see why. Can you see how easy it was to put the warp through on that? Now I'm just going to check my warp threads are the same length. No, they're not. So what you want to do is you want to pull it through so that the warp thread, you have it the same amount of thread on either side of your bangle. And then quite simply, you are going to weave in and out of your bangle. You can decorate the warps should you so choose, either side here, or you can do something really scrumptious on the bangle using it as your little sort of I think of them as little canvases really upon which I can make my mark afterwards. But quite simply, all we do is we rewarp the whole thing backwards and forwards. So I've done this with one side. Then what you will need to do is you'll need to cross over your warp on the other side. And when you're working with wool like this, I really recommend that as you pull your warps together, you compact it. So you squeeze down on it, which is what the warping threads will do. So there we go. Pulling this one over here. I always like to make sure as well that this part here is in front of the warps. Now I'm getting rather a beautiful bow-like. Can you see it goes in here and out here? So what I will do is I will mount something on the front here because it lends itself to it, and sometimes your work that you do finds its own sort of pattern as you work with it, which is really quite a divine thing to occur. And basically, to be honest with you, all that leaves me to do is to show you that you just warp all the way around it. There we go, that goes in front here. I put my hand there to ensure that that happens. And you just keep going with both threads, crossing them over all the way through and all the way round, and then quite simply at the end, all you will need to do is to pull it off, and voila, you will have a wonderful wrist warming cuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that through there quite simplistically like that, and I'm going to show you the ubiquitous, here's one I made earlier. So that is how I made this rather beautiful beast here, and as I said earlier, I quite simply made that by putting a little bit of wire first, and I sandwiched it between two lovely wire collars. So I hope you'll enjoy making this wonderful bracelet. Don't waste it, weave it, remember, and show me all your wonderful things. Bye-bye.